a violent storm ripped across the dark waters of the North Atlantic. Amid the roaring waves, a lifeboat creaked under the weight of a handful of survivors. One man clung to the edge, soaked to the bone, his hands trembling with cold and fear. His name was William Reeves, a third-class passenger on the RMS Titanic. On that unforgettable night of April 15, 1912, he was one of the few who managed to escape the doomed ship. As he gazed into the endless Black Sea, he had no idea that his survival would soon be overshadowed by something even more unbelievable. 14 years before the Titanic sank, a little-known author named Morgan Robertson published a novella titled Futility. In it, he wrote about a massive, luxurious ocean liner named the Titan. Like the Titanic, it was hailed as unsinkable. Like the Titanic, it struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. And like the Titanic, it sank on an April night with most passengers dying due to a shortage of lifeboats. The details were hauntingly precise. The name of the ship, the cause of the disaster. Even the size and speed were nearly identical. This was not a prophecy, it was fiction. Or was it? Are coincidences just random quirks in a chaotic universe? Or are they whispers from something greater, something hidden beneath the surface of reality? Let us explore 10 of the most mind-bending coincidences ever recorded. These are not legends or myths. These events actually happened. Whether they point to fate, destiny, or sheer randomness is for you to decide. 1. The sinking that was predicted. Titan and Titanic. Morgan Robertson was not a psychic. He was a marine enthusiast who kept up with technological trends. But when he released Futility in 1898, the plot he described would soon become one of the most famous real-life disasters in history. His fictional ship, the Titan, was described as the largest vessel afloat. It carried the wealthy elite across the Atlantic and was equipped with just enough lifeboats to meet outdated safety standards. In his story, the Titan hits an iceberg and sinks, killing thousands. In 1912, the Titanic made headlines for nearly the exact same reasons. It too was considered a marvel of engineering. It too had too few lifeboats. And it too struck an iceberg on its maiden voyage. Robertson's novella predated the Titanic by over a decade, yet the coincidences between the two vessels are nearly identical. The Titan was 800 feet long. The Titanic was 882. Both could carry around 3,000 people. Both traveled at similar speeds. Even the accident occurred in nearly the same geographic location. It was as if reality had borrowed a script from fiction, down to the tiniest detail. 2. The bullet that returned. In the quiet woods of Texas during the late 1880s, a man named Henry Ziegland ended a relationship with his fiancée. Heartbroken, the young woman took her own life. Her brother, consumed with grief and rage, tracked down Ziegland and shot him in the head. Believing he had avenged his sister, he turned the gun on himself and died instantly. But Ziegland did not die. The bullet had only grazed his face and embedded itself in a tree behind him. He survived and went on with his life. Years later, while clearing land, he decided to remove that very tree. It was thick and old, so he used dynamite to blow it up. The explosion dislodged the bullet from the trunk, and it flew through the air with terrifying force. This time, it struck Ziegland in the head and killed him. What are the odds that a bullet fired decades earlier would complete its journey in such a grim fashion? Some call it bad luck. Others see it as karma completing a long, slow arc of justice. 3. The twin brothers parallel. Lives in Ohio, twin boys were separated at birth. Each was adopted by a different family, unaware of the other's existence. Despite growing up miles apart and living entirely separate lives, the similarities between them were nothing short of astonishing. Both boys were named James. Both became police officers. Both married women named Linda. Each had a son, one named James Allen, the other James Allen. Eventually, both divorced their wives and married women named Betty. And if that was not enough, both owned dogs named Toy. When they finally met at the age of 39, the coincidences left researchers baffled. These were not just similar traits. These were nearly identical life choices, made without any knowledge of one another. Geneticists and psychologists have studied cases like this to explore nature versus nurture. but few examples match the eerie alignment of the Jim twins. 4. The fall of the same taxi. In 1975, a man riding a moped was struck and killed by a taxi in Bermuda. His name was Erskine Lawrence Eben. He was 17 years old. The tragic accident shocked the small island community. 1 year later, his brother, also named Erskine, because he had been given the same name in honor of his sibling, was also 17. He was riding the exact same moped, on the exact same street, and he was hit by the exact same taxi, driven by the same taxi driver carrying the same passenger. 2 brothers. 1 vehicle. 1 driver. 1 street. The same fate. Statisticians call this a freak alignment. But to the people who knew the Eben family, it felt like time had folded in on itself, repeating the same nightmare just 1 year apart. 5. The tragedy of Hoover Dam. During the construction of the Hoover Dam, many men lost their lives to the unforgiving conditions and dangerous work. But the first and last casualties tell a chilling tale. The first person to die during the project was J.G. Tierney. He drowned while conducting a geological survey on December 20th, 1922. Exactly 13 years later to the day, the last man to die on the Hoover Dam project also drowned. His name was Patrick Tierney. He was J.G. Tierney's son. There is no evidence that the date was chosen or that the events were manipulated. The deaths occurred exactly 13 years apart, down to the calendar day. For some, it is a tragic family legacy. For others, it is an echo from the past that refuses to be forgotten. 6. The Poe Prophecy, the Cannibal Ship. In 1838, author Edgar Allan Poe published his only complete novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. The tale follows a group of shipwreck survivors stranded at sea, starving and desperate. In a horrifying turn, they resort to cannibalism. The victim in Poe's story is a cabin boy named Richard Parker. It was a gruesome scene, but entirely fictional. 46 years later, in 1884, a British yacht named the Mignonette set sail for Australia. It never made it. The vessel was caught in a violent storm and sank. 4 crew members escaped in a lifeboat and drifted for days with no food or water. Eventually, in a state of utter desperation, they killed and ate the youngest crew member. His name was Richard Parker. The details of the real-life tragedy mirrored Poe's story almost perfectly. The names matched. The victim's role as a young cabin boy matched. Even the method of killing, like drinking his blood and eating his flesh, was identical. Scholars still debate whether Poe somehow tapped into a deeper narrative of fate, or if the name Richard Parker was simply a common one. Either way, the connection is chilling. 7. The Royal Coincidence, King Umberto's Double. In the late 19th century, King Umberto I of Italy dined at a small restaurant in Monza. The owner came to greet him personally, and the king was immediately stunned. The man looked exactly like him. Not just similar, they're identical. They had the same facial features, height, build, and even the same voice. The coincidences did not end there. Both men were born on the same day in the same town. Both were married to women named Margherita. The restaurant owner had opened his business on the same day that Umberto had been crowned king. Their lives mirrored each other in detail after detail. On July 29, 1900, King Umberto was informed that his doppelganger had just been shot and killed in a mysterious accident. Later that same day, the king himself was assassinated by an anarchist during a public event. 2 men, born on the same day, living parallel lives, and dying by violence on the very same date. Coincidence or cosmic alignment? 8. The train crash that repeated itself. In October 1895, a commuter train in Paris overran its buffer stop at Gare Montparnasse. It smashed through a wall, burst out of the station, and crashed onto the street below. The image of the locomotive hanging from the building's edge became iconic. Incredibly, the crash resulted in only 1 death, a woman selling newspapers on the street. Nearly a century later, in 2007, a television show was filming a historical reenactment of the crash in a station near Paris. During filming, a section of the station's platform collapsed under the weight of the set. A piece of equipment rolled toward the edge and tumbled through a glass window. It landed on the street below. Though no one died, the accident echoed the original event with disturbing precision. Some believe it was a simple matter of bad timing and structural stress. Others whisper about the station being cursed forever, trying to replay the moment it became famous. 9. Mark Twain and Halley's Comet. Samuel Clemens, known to the world as Mark Twain, was born in 1835. That same year, Halley's Comet made one of its rare appearances in the sky, an event that occurs roughly every 76 years. Twain was fascinated by this cosmic body, often referring to it in his writings as a symbol of fate and spectacle. As he grew older, Twain made a bold prediction. He said that he came into the world with Halley's Comet and that he would go out with it too. Few took the comment seriously. But in April 1910, Halley's Comet reappeared bright, bold, and ominous in the night sky. Mark Twain died the next day. The timing was exact. It was as if the universe had written its own poetic ending to a life built on satire, wit, and wonder. Twain's prediction lives on as one of the most profound personal prophecies ever fulfilled. 10. The unlucky taxi fare. In 2002, a Finnish man was riding his bicycle across a quiet rural road when he was struck by a taxi and killed. Tragic as it was, the incident made only local headlines. However, what happened next turned it into an international mystery. 2 hours later, another man also on a bicycle was struck and killed by the same taxi, in the same spot, under the same conditions. The driver was the same. The road was clear. The passenger was still the same man from the earlier ride. Police were baffled. But it did not end there. Investigation revealed that the second cyclist was the brother of the first victim. Both brothers were riding along the same route, just 2 hours apart. Neither knew the other was on the road that day. For the taxi driver and his passenger, it was a surreal experience, like watching a moment repeat itself in real time. Some viewed it as an unfortunate fluke. Others saw it as something beyond coincidence, a moment when time briefly bent back on itself. So what do we make of these stories? Are they reminders that the universe is far more interconnected than we understand? Are they evidence of hidden patterns and invisible strings, tugging history in unexpected directions? Or are they simply the byproduct of billions of random moments, occasionally lining up in ways that defy reason? In a world filled with uncertainty, coincidences like these challenge our sense of control. They shake the foundations of logic and force us to ask uncomfortable questions. If events this strange can unfold without purpose, then what else might be happening that we do not yet comprehend? Or perhaps these coincidences are not random at all. Perhaps they are clues, breadcrumbs left behind by time itself, urging us to pay closer attention. If you found this video thought-provoking, make sure to like and subscribe.